welcome to this week's GG Weekend Watch, sponsored by SBK as usual, on what is going to be another jam-packed show. We have 10 scheduled races to get through yet again today, so we're going to try and move as swiftly as possible through those races, as well as any other races your regular GG Weekend Watch pundits wish to guide you through. Now, it is Halloween this weekend, so hopefully it's going to be more treats than tricks from our two pundits this weekend, as Mr. Mount has a very well-placed jack-o'-lantern in the background, different from the tweed than last weekend, but at least he's keeping it seasonal anyway. So, as I say, we do have Andrew Monstrous Mount, as well as Daryl Cauldron Carter to guide you through the weekend action. It's 100 Simpsons there, really, as an introduction, didn't it, really? A bit Treehouse of Horror more so than anything else. But as I say, hopefully it won't be a horror show then for this week's show, and plenty of winners to boot. So before, well, we better get started really before anything else. So we're going to swiftly move on to the 120 at Wetherby, our first race. We begin with a wide open 0 to 125 handicap chase over 2 mile 3, where the market is currently headed by Jericho Rock for the David Pipe Yard, who makes his reappearance yard. But this is a very tricky opener to solve, Andrew. So I challenge you to kick us off, please.
Yeah, well, I'll take on the favourite to start with, Jericho Rock. I'm glad you said that one first, because I was going to say it's completely differently.
I have no idea if that's correct, by the way.
I'm pretty sure your stab's a lot better than mine. But yeah, I mean, so far this one's been best at 2 miles. Seems to finish weakly when trying this sort of extended 2 mile 3 trip previously. And with the pipe yard not yet firing, maybe we'll take this one on. There are a couple of interesting ones. I mean, Revels Hill, a point winner who's now going over fences for the first time under rules for Harry Fry. But I'm looking at some of the bigger prices. Jerryville was quite interesting. First run for Mickey Hammond was a bit of a mover when the betting first opened. 25s into 10s, out to 12s now, I think. But when this one's best efforts in France came first time out in the autumn, so it'll be interesting to see if that pattern remains for the new yard. Well, I'm going to side with Templehills for Nigel Twiston-Davies. We know that his horses go well at this time of year, and that's certainly been the case with Templehills, who's had 8 runs in October, winning 4 of them. And if you only look at his October runs in Class 3 or lower company, it's 4 wins from 5 and a third at Stratford at this time last year, when beaten less than 4 lengths off a mark of 128. He's down to 121 now. And I just thought he's going to run his usual solid race. I think he's about 14 to 1, but given his record, he won last time out. I know he's a 10-year-old now, 11 to 1. He was 16s at one stage when the betting first opened. So yeah, Templehills for me. Sizing at midnight's half interesting in the first time blinkers. That's a statistical positive for the Colin Tizard yard with their chasers, and they've started the season reasonably well with a couple of winners. Yeah, Templehills for me. But as you say, it's a tricky old start to the day.
Yes, it really is. As you say, we haven't given you an easy opener here by any means, but a few notable mentions there. Say Colin Tizard, a few of his horses very well handicapped from last season. So positive mention for sizing at midnight, but the main selection going to be Templehills for the informed Nigel Twiston-Davies team. Now, Daryl, we spoke about this race before the off, and as you say, you didn't have an overly strong opinion on this, which I cannot blame you for whatsoever, because I did make the joke that this is not the easiest opener by any means. And Andrew also said that you get a dunce there for not doing your homeworks. But I think we can forgive you passing this race over, certainly. So it is, yes, very, very tricky. Hopefully it will be easier then in our next race in the 155. This is the listed Mares Hurdle over 2 miles, which is a really good renewal of this race, it looks, and especially likeable, as we have 6 of the 7 runners rated from 130 to 145, with the 100 to 1 outsider rated 113. But there's very little to separate the rest of the mares here, with Miranda at the head of the market, who I've always found a very tricky horse to weigh up, because she's either brilliant or disappointing, and I can just never seem to get her right. But Daryl, is she a mare you want to keep on side as the joint highest rated in this race?
Not first time out, no. I think she's got a poor record fresh. I think she's won once, which came at Ludlow, but the first, second, third and fourth are all rated below 90. So, yeah, I think tread carefully with her first time out. There's not a lot to separate a lot of these, to be honest. It's quite difficult. I went through every single runner and still failed to come up with a strong opinion. I thought Molly Ollie's Wishes and And the McCain horse 5 and 20 would be the two likely pace angles. Molly is Ollie's Wishes again has not got a great record fresh, so that would be a slight concern. I thought the likes of her indoors would be better once she goes up to a 2.5 mile trip. I think she's been screaming out for it, so I can't understand why they're over 2 miles here. I think she might lack the speed of perhaps a couple of these. Zambella drops back from 3 miles to 2 miles. She was a 3 mile chaser last time out. She's got one good piece of form in a Kingwell hurdle at Kempton that makes her look interesting for this, but yeah, it's very, very difficult. 5 and 20's regular rider goes to Musselburgh. So that might just be an indication on her chances here, Brian Hughes. She, like I say, is a likely pace angle. Recorded some excellent time figures at Musselburgh last season. She hasn't gone on from that yet. So she might be a risky proposition. Marie's Rock is the most interesting runner in this field. Now, you know, I hold my head in my hands every time this horse gets an entry because she's definitely better than what she showed last season in 2 starts. She was really impressive in her first 3 outings before getting an injury. So those 2 starts last year are off the back of an injury. Now, she shaped quite well at Newbury behind Floressa. Nothing went wrong for her. You know, she was very keen. She had a faller right in front of her. Didn't work out well. And then at Doncaster, she just was never travelling a yard. She's had a wind operation. Tongue tie stays on. Nico has gone to Ascot, but I thought she was the one in the field that had the most considerable promise going forward in terms of the rest of the season. I think she can improve past these lot. Now, it depends what Marie's Rock turns up, and you're going to want a bit of compensation in your price. So if she had a little drift, if you can get about 5 to 1, and I'd rather roll the dice with her rather than a few of the others. But I think the most solid option in the race is probably her indoors for Alan King. So a toss-up between the two, no strong opinion. I think they're the two to focus on, though.
Yeah, and her endorsed say a positive mention despite over the 2 mile trip there as well. But as you say, Marie's Rock, then you're getting a bit of a bigger price about her chances to take on Miranda at the head of a market. Andrew, do you also take on Miranda or do you side with her in this?
No, I'm going to side with Miranda. I think the key to her is taking on her own sex. She's only done it 5 times in her career. She's won 4 of them, all of those runs coming over hurdles. And she finished 7th of 14 in a Bath Fillies list race for fillies and mares. Did really well that day. She was rated 89. All the horses who beat her were rated high. She was a 33 to 1 shot. You know, never put into the race after a break. So never lost over hurdles, running against mares. And I'm not worried. Paul Nicholls first time out. I know she's been when she won when she won at Ludlow first time out on her debut for Paul Nicholls. She wasn't the favourite. She won her first hurdle start last year. She's had several sort of wins after breaks of sort of 6 weeks mid-season, so I don't think fitness is going to be an issue. So yeah, Miranda for me, ran 9 to 4 from 11 to 4, I think, when the betting first opened. So that suggests that fitness isn't going to be an issue.
Yep, certainly so. So siding with Miranda there to hope that back against her own sex will see her to a positive effect. So she's a mare that I just cannot get right for love nor money, so I'm not going to have an opinion. So you both have chances there for taking her on or siding with her. Now, the next race, the 2:30. This is our first graded action of the day and our third race at Wetherby. It's the Grade 2 West Yorkshire Hurdle over 3 miles, where we get to see the returning Paisley Park making his reappearance start after pulling up in the Liverpool Hurdle at Aintree on that latest start. And he currently heads the market in the hope of him bouncing back to winning ways. However, he does have some interesting rivals here in Thomas Darby, who finished 3rd in the Liverpool Hurdle at Aintree. We also have Master Tommy Tucker returning to hurdles. We know an awful lot about him over fences, how brilliant or terrifying he was. But he's a real character, so it'll be fascinating to see him back over hurdles. And there's a whole host of smart performers lining up here. But Andrew, who do you side with in what is an intriguing contest?
Yeah, this is an absolute belter. I mean, one good judge told me earlier on this week I should be on Paisley Park at 20 to 1 for the Stairs Hurdle, this season, because after this reappearance run, he's not going to be that sort of price. I mean, he will be 10 when he arrives at Cheltenham next spring. Let's hope he does gets there in one piece and in form. I can see him winning this. You look at his seasonal debut record; it's 3 wins and 2 close seconds from 5 starts. But I can leave him alone and let him win on backed at 9 to 4. I was looking at Thomas Darby as well, who remains open to improvement over this trip, having placed in Grade 1 company at Aintree. Proshima as well for the Skelton Yard. This one looks as though 3 miles is going to suit. Indefatigable, one of my favourite horses.
Love her.
Absolutely love her. She's fantastic. And another thing to mention about hurdles and Wetherby at the moment, well, certainly at this meeting last year, at this 2-day meeting last year, if you were anywhere near the inside rail, generally speaking, he didn't have a prayer. I think third time lucky won round the inside, but he was something like 4-1 on, and just outclassed his opponents. Remember when Mrs. Hyde won? It was a case of the wider the better in that race, and so do just keep an eye on that. We'll get some clues whether there's any track bias from racing on Friday. So that it could make life tricky for front runners if that inside is no good as it was in the meeting last year. But of the ones on the short list, I'm tempted just to side with Thomas Darby because he hasn't had many opportunities at 3 miles.
Yes, yeah, that was thrown in there at the end properly with Thomas Darby. I didn't expect him to be your main selection then after going through those runners. But yes, but also a note to watch that inside rail on the Friday and see how they fare, and basically how that might transpire then for the Saturday as well. Daryl, yourself, please, for this race.
Yeah, I'm quite keen to take Paisley Park on here. I quite like Thomas Darby for this. I thought he was excellent at Aintree behind Time Hill. Now, a lot of people will write that off as back end season form, but Time Hill actually missed Cheltenham, so he came there a fresh horse in good order. Yeah, I thought it was a cracking run. Paisley Park pulled up in that race. I've always thought this was a horse that was crying out for a trip. I've messaged Ollie Murphy a couple of times saying, when's he going over 3 miles? I think he's open to vast improvement now over this trip.
Has he replied, or did he just say stop?
Yeah, no, he does. To be fair to Ollie, he's very, very good. He replies all the time. He's an absolute gent, and I know he really likes this horse. I think he's been running over the wrong trip. Like I say, 3 miles definitely open to improvement for me. He actually ran a blistering time figure at Kempton behind McFabulous in the Real Kill Hurdle at Kempton. Kempton. He was just outpaced between the second last and the last. He stayed on really strongly at the finish. Now, he was on the sharp end of the pace that day, so it suggested that he definitely wanted to go up and trip. I can easily forgive him his run in the Coral Cup. He was beaten 14th for 26th, but he was off a rating of 155. I mean, he was £10 higher than anything else in the race, and there was lots of improving horses in there, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. Yeah, and I think this horse he's open to vast improvement over this 3 mile trip. I really don't think he's had much in his favour for a lot of his career. I think he did remarkably well in the Supreme Novice Hurdle to finish second behind Classical Dream. I thought the other interesting one was Master Tommy Tucker. Now, obviously, we know that he's a bit frail over fences. Yeah. Back over hurdles, I think he's very interesting. I don't think this is just a prep run. I think they might just give him the season over hurdles. And how far he can go, it's anyone's guess. Slight concern for me, though, is the 3 mile trip. He's gotten 2.5 or 2 miles 5 quite easily, but going up to 3 miles asks a bit of a different question. He's not bred for it, so that's a slight worry. And this run for Oscar, keep an eye on him. If he gets a good bit of back, and he's just a 6-year-old, he's won his last 2 starts in the first time in a visor. If the visor continues to work, he's very much on the upgrade. His run for Oscar for Charles Burns. Interesting they bring him over, but I'm hoping Thomas Darby can get his head back in front now over 3 miles.
Yeah, so 2 positive mentions there for Thomas Darby in the hope that there's more to come from him over this trip. And he's second in, so you're getting a bigger price about him than Paisley Park as well. So he does look very interesting, but some notable mentions for some proper characters in this race of those in behind as well. And as you say, fascinating that Charles Burns brings Run for Oscar over here to bid for that hat trick. So we will move on then to our next race. This is the feature race in Britain on Saturday with the Grade 2 Charlie Hall Chase over 3 miles, where Surname currently heads the market, but he has pulled up on his latest couple of starts. We haven't seen him since February as well, but he clearly sets the standard on official ratings with his mark of 168. But hasn't his rating always set the standard, even when perhaps it maybe shouldn't have? But he won this race last year on his reappearance start. First run since falling in the Ascot Chase in February. So he's taking the same route here and again has to bounce back. But I do fear that Shan will challenge Surname for the lead here and really put Surname under pressure with his jumping on the front end. And over a course and distance, Shan won over at this meeting last year in a novices chase where he absolutely bolted up. Then, and as we saw with Surname on his latest start in the Grade 1 Ascot Chase, when he got headed and was put under pressure, he quickened. He just weakened out things very quickly. So he has been given a wind operation since then. It may well fix that issue, of course, with the Nichols team. As I say, they will be gunning for this win just as they did last year. But I just fear about Shan cracking him on the front end. So I'll stick Surname on here at the prices with Shan to hopefully find the necessary improvement on ratings. But Daryl, how do you see this race panning out?
Yeah, you're braver than me if you're taking taking 6-5 or whatever it is about surname at the front of the market. He's failed to complete in 3 of his last 4 starts. That if he turns up in the form he did last year, he'll probably win this. But I think you've got to take him on. Just a quick one before I'll get into this race. I just want to have a quick rant a little bit.
Please.
So a lot of people at the moment are moaning that everyone's talking about Cheltenham. It's not all about Cheltenham. It's not all about Cheltenham, right? But then the same people are moaning that we haven't got any decent horses turning up for these races. Now, if you look at in the UK, 160 plus rated chasers, established chasers, at the turn of the year that will be younger than 10, over 3 miles, how many do you think we've got?
Ooh.
160 plus, over 3 miles, younger than 10.
Younger than 10. There's not going to be many at all, is there?
4. Got 4.
Oh.
Yeah. Dashel Drasher.
That bad. Wow.
Dashel Drasher, Royal Pagaille, Chantry House, and Espoir de Rome. And Defi de Sil might be going up to 3 miles this season. We don't know. But that's my point. We've got absolutely no depth in the UK to horses for us not to be getting excited about Cheltenham, because we don't have the depth for these types of races. I mean, if you look at all of our chasers that are going to chasers over various trips that are going to be rated 160 plus and younger than 10 at the turn of the year for next year's festival, they've got 15 grade 1s between them, and Defi de Sil has got 7 of those.
Oh wow.
If you look at Ireland, they've got 20. If you look at Ireland, they've got 21 between them, and it's filtered all throughout the different trips of different horses. So we have a sheer lack of depth over here. That's why no one gets excited about a Charlie Hall chase anymore. But anyway, that's it. I like Fusil Raffles in here. I think he ran really well on reappearance behind Brave Man's Game. Again, he's another horse that seems to get outpaced in the mid parts of his races and stays on quite strongly. I think he's open to plenty of improvement as a 6-year-old going up in trip. If you look at his sire, what he produces, it's a Quinto de la Roque, who's a 3-mile champion chase down Royal winner. Lorraine Legend was second in an RSA. Jacadam was a Thyestes winner on heavy ground over 3 miles. I think he's open to improvement going up to 3 miles. I do quite like him. I think he's got some of the strongest form on offer. He's one of 2 horses to have beaten Chantry House. The other was Shishkin. I think he's got a lot more to come, and I just love the fact that they started him out so young, and he's just a progressive horse. I think at around 13-2, he offers a good bit of value. I'm not entirely convinced that Chamblou wants 3 miles. I know he's won twice over the trip, but the closing section was over his 3 miles. I just didn't think suggested he was a strong stayer at the trip. But Fusil Raffles to upset the apple cart, I think he's an attractive price at around 13-2.
Yeah, I'd say around 13-2 there. I sided with Fusil Raffles last time out at Newton Abbot, and I was praying that Daryl Jacob was going to send him from the front there and really put Brave Man's Games jumping under pressure on his chasing debut, because I wasn't overly convinced about the scope he showed over hurdles. Obviously, he's put that to bed there of how clever he was, Brave Man's Game. But I was really hoping he was going to ride him forwards there. And
he just didn't have the pace, did he? He just didn't have the pace.
I thought he was quite keen, if anything, and he was really sort of trying to rein him back. That was my sort of take on the race, and I just wanted to let him on, and I just really wanted to put the jumping under pressure. But like you say, it's fascinating that they're now sending him up and trip over 3 miles here. And for that reason, you'd have to think that they also obviously think that he wants that bit of an extra test as well here. So he's fascinating, but he let me down the last time. So I'm going to bear that grudge here. Andrew, grudges from yourself, any?
Last year's Charlie Hall was pants, wasn't it? It was an exciting finish, but 8 horses finished the race, and they haven't. So the horses who finished second through to 8th have failed to win a race since 0 from 26. So Vinndication needs to go right-handed, and stupidly run on a left-handed track again, as he has been ever since. But we'll come to him later on when we discuss Ascot. But yeah, I mean, Surname, okay, he's had the wind up first time out, might be when to catch him, but you can keep your 6-5. Plondor Castle wouldn't be a surprise winner. He goes well fresh. He's still open to improvement over this sort of trip. Having chased home Clan des Oboes by a very respectful distance, admittedly, at Aintree last time. And I'm with you on Chamblou. I think the key to him is freshness. And you look at his first 3 runs each season, over the 2 full seasons he's been racing, 4 wins, a close second, and a 4. You look at his record on his a 4th or subsequent start, 0 from 6. So he just seems to go off the boil after a few runs. So, if that theory has got any logic to it, then he should go well. And the other one that I can't quite believe the price, 33-1, is Top Ville Ben for Phil Kirby yard. Now, the top Ville Ben's got to go left-handed over fences. 4 wins, 3 places from 8 completed starts. When he's had Wetherby over fences, 3 wins and a 5th in this race last year. Now, last year, like on the hurdles course, you couldn't win round the inside over fences. And you look at that Charlie Hall, and there were horses going up and down, on the spot on the inside, like Asa, switched off the rail. They started making, ground, but then the effort had taken its toll. So top Ville Ben was round the inside throughout, and in the circumstances, probably wasn't disgraced. And you look at the official ratings, 168 for Surname, 159 Clondor Castle. Third in is top Ville Ben on 156. I know it's not a handicap, but if he were, he'd be giving weight to some of the ones that he's actually receiving weight from. So, 33 to 1 each way, as long as there's not a swamp on the inside and he's not in it. But at that price, you can take the chance. So, I'll split stakes, Shamblu, top Ville Ben.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So Shamblu, they're around 92, and top Ville Ben, the outsider of the lot there, to hopefully put his course and distance for record to good use. But all 3 of us, they're taking on Surname at his current price of 6 to 5, and Fusil Raffles there for Daryl as well. So what's going to be a fascinating Charlie Hall at Wetherby. Now we move on to our final scheduled race from Wetherby, which is another open race in the form of a 0 to 130 handicap hurdle over 2 mile 3.5 furlongs, where the informed Donald McCain Yard send out the current favourite, tentatively so favourite, Mackenberg. But as I say, this race is very open, Andrew. So how do you assess this?
Yeah, I assess this like Daryl assessed the first race, which is playing my get out of jail free card. I will mention one horse I want to keep a close eye on. That's Another Theatre, who was well beaten on his recent reappearance, and he'll probably finish well held on Saturday. I just think that I want to be with him next time. He tends to need a couple of runs. He won 3rd time out last season. He won 3rd time out the year before. So I'm just looking for a little bit more than Another Theatre showed last time, with a view to backing him next time. So, I'm hoping he finishes sort of 4th, 5th or 6th, so that he'll appear in my GG eye catches column next week. But as for who's going to win this, I'm afraid I haven't a clue.
No, that is completely fair. So you're both entitled to a get out of jail free card when we've got 10 scheduled races, and you don't have to have a bet in every race. We reiterate this the whole while, safe gambling, that you do not have to have a strong opinion in every single race. So that is completely fair, but a notable mention for Another Theatre with an eye to potentially watching her down the line. Daryl, do you have a strong opinion in this race?
How come he gets that lovely little spiel after, and I get he didn't do his own work? Favoritism. Yes, I've got a very strong opinion in this race. I like a horse. I like a horse called Haafapiece. This horse has run 3. Last season he didn't stay 2.5 miles at Sandown. Then he bumped into the rapidly improving Ajero at Huntington. But he's run 3 really nice races here at Wetherby. On his reappearance last year, he was 4th off a mark of 130 behind Anamoy and Proshima. They're both 8 and 14 pounds higher in the handicap. He then goes Wetherby again, runs 2nd to Albert's Back, and he ran an excellent time figure. In fact, today's favourite, Mackenberg, ran on the same card, right? And he was 20 lengths faster than Mackenberg was. And he was given weight to the winner that day. He was carrying 6 pounds more than Mackenberg later on the card, and the winner is now 11 pounds higher. He fell at the last at Cheltenham in December last year when he looked the winner over Breffney Boy. And Breffney Boy is obviously 12 pounds higher in the market, in the handicap. He just fell at the last, just got it wrong. He looked all over the winner that day. And then his latest start at Wetherby, he chased down the unexposed pair, Paid a Piper and Shantou Express, where they just didn't go fast enough for him up front. He was held up at the rear of the field, and then he was coming with his challenge, and he just clouted the second last, and it just took the wind out of him, really, or out of his long burst of run. Under today's claimer, he's actually 7 pounds lower than his last run behind Paid a Piper and Shantou Express, and he's 5 pounds lower than his run behind Albert's Back. This jockey as well, I've gone back and watched a few of his runs, Jack Andrews. He's actually quite a capable jockey, to be fair to the lad. Look, he does need to take a step forward, but he does go well fresh. He loves it here. He's waited to go well. The ground's no issue. This is slightly easier than some of the races he was contesting last year, and he's a double-figure price, so I thought he would be a good each-way shout.
Yeah, definitely so. And it's really interesting that you talk about Haafapiece here, because I actually went to see Jack Andrews last night, because believe it or not, small, strange world that the racing game is. I picked up my new kitten from him last night. I went down to the yard there, Gina and Tom Ellis's yard, and Jack was doing the board. And I just said to him, oh, what have you got this weekend? With in mind to the restart of the pointing weekend. He said, oh no, I'm actually heading up to Wetherby for Haafapiece for Pam Si. And said, well, that's actually the horse that gave Gina Andrews that horrendous fall, and where she wasn't okay after that for quite a while. And he said so many of the positives that you've just mentioned there. And then Pam wanted to use his claim to use the £5 claim to get him back to that really workable mark here. And he thought he had a real shout there as well. So strange way of it coming about, but yes, definitely so for you, for Jack, for Pam, for everyone. Haafapiece there at a double figure price in the 340 at Wetherby. Now, Daryl, I'm going to throw it back to you. Oh, pardon?
Yeah, next week, can you buy a puppy off Paul Nichols? Because I fancy one of his.
This is my into the yard. This is the way I get behind the wall there. It's just through cute animals. So other people have their trends and their stats, but no, I'll just go and take a cute animal from them. Right. Strange tangent, but you know. Daryl, back to you, please, for anything else from Wetherby.
No, nothing for me. No. Thank you very much.
That's completely fair. There you go. Andrew, yourself, please.
No, nothing for me either.
No, that is, as I say, we've covered plenty from Wetherby already. So we're going to move on to Ascot, and we're going to head to the 135. And we start with a novices limited handicap chase over 2 mile, 2.5 furlongs, where Kid Commando heads the 7-runner field as he makes his chase debut. And this is his first start after a wind operation as well. But he was a faller of his final start over hurdles, which isn't ideal, Andrew, is it, when you're making your chase debut on your next start? But do you forgive that or side with him?
Yeah, I've not looked at the stats of that. That's an interesting angle. But he's had over 200 days to get over that. So you'd imagine since then he's had a good break. He's been well schooled, and I fancy his chances here. He won on this card last year in the handicap hurdle. He's had wind surgery, as you mentioned, and Anthony Honeyball handicap his first run after wind surgery. 5 wins from 15 starts and a profit of over £19 to a £1 level stake. That's prior to Thursday's racing at Foss Last, where I think he's got 1 or 2 qualifiers on that angle. So he had wind surgery last season before he ran here at Ascot in February, and admittedly he sort of disappointed that time, but maybe the wind up didn't work, and they've had they've given him another one now. So I thought he was had an obvious chance. The 3-1 you could perhaps argue is a little bit skinny. There's plenty of other interesting runners in this race. Nassalam particularly, who we last saw in the Fred Winter, finishing 10th. But the Fred Winter was, as is often the case, run to suit those who came from well off the pace. And you look at the horses who were you're described as sort of led, prominent chase leaders, track leaders, anywhere near the front end. They all finished well beaten. I think the best was 5th. You look at some of the others in that race who were up with the pace. The horses in 7th, 11th, 15th and 19th have all won at least once since. So I thought Nassalam, going over fences, was a fascinating contender here. And I think I'll be inclined perhaps just to throw a couple of quid at him at 8-1 if I was going to have an interest, rather than sort of 3-1 Kid Commando. Lord Baddesley was another one of interest. He was well held on his chase debut and reappearance at Warwick the other day behind Beyond the Clouds, but very weak in the betting and ran as though that experience were needed. So I expect to see him do a little better for Chris Gordon. It's a real tricky race to sort of have a bet in, but put a gun to my head, Kid Commando, but at the prices, maybe I'll just chance Nassalam.
Yeah, so at either end of the market there, Kid Commander is the current favourite and Lord Baddesley as the outsider, but he's only around a 12-1 shot from the 7 runners there. But a good mention as well for Nassalam. And I love this, what trainers are doing more and more so with 4-year-olds, sending them over hurdles and getting those allowances. It's been seen to such positive effect time and time again. But yeah, wide open race, really tricky yet again, Daryl. And how do you assess it?
Well, I don't like anything really. I like these races. These races are the races that I'll focus on throughout the season, but I need to gather information before I start making strong opinions. And that means watching them jump. I thought What's Up With You was interesting at a double figure price. He's one of the only runners, well, he is the only runner outside of Kid Commando to have point to point experience. He was better than a bare result a few times over hurdles last season. He's dropped down to a fair mark of 133. I didn't have a strong enough opinion for a bet, I don't think. I just thought 14-1 was too big. I know Kid Commando is a nice horse and whatnot, but 100 mark of 140, I just don't see what he's done and what he's beaten to warrant a mark of 140. I think that's a stiff enough mark for him to go chasing with. I'd be keen to take him on really, but it might be an in-running play for me rather than than a bet beforehand. But What's Up With You for the selection for the sake of this video?
Yep, and to hopefully give Keelan Woods a good winner back after an injury that's just kept him off the track for a bit of time as well. So yeah, really tricky race to assess. Only 7 runners as well, so difficult to find an angle into it, and especially with plenty of questions to have to be answered for these novices chasers as well. So hopefully we will have more angles in our next race at Ascot. This is the 210. This is the listed London handicap hurdle over just shy of 2 miles, where the Betfair hurdle winner of last season, Soaring Glory, makes his reappearance after finishing 4th in the Supreme Novices hurdle on his final start of last season. So back in listed company here, Daryl. Does that mean he should take all the beating?
He'll definitely go very close. I think the top 3 in the market are miles clear than the rest of them, to be quite honest with you. I thought Soaring Glory's £10 higher than his Betfair hurdle win. If he runs anywhere near that level, I think he might prove tough to beat here, especially given Guard Your Dreams came out last week and won off a mark of 145. He finished 6th in that race. So a mark of 143 shouldn't be beyond Soaring Glory. But this revolves around Boothill for me. Look, he's going to be very, very popular. And that is always a slight concern. I never like to back a horse that's a popular horse because it never tends to end well. If everybody can see it, sort of thing, then it's the obvious choice. But off a mark of 135, just based on what the time period he did at Taunton, that makes him look very well handicapped. And even if that form is not really worth too much, his Kempton bumper win, where he beat likes of Bothwell Bridge, etc., I think right down to 7th is rated up to 130. He's almost certainly got more to come, this horse. Now, I know someone who knows the owner of this horse, and he had a knee injury, a slight issue. They were thinking about going chasing, but because he's got such a leading handicap mark of 135, they want to get him over hurdles. The book of the Sound Twisted Davies obviously catches the eye for this yard. I think he's going to win. I think he's going to win well. I do think the 2 behind him in the market, Soaring Glory and Gero, are both nice horses and both progressive horses, but I think they are so far clear of anything else in this field. I wouldn't even give a second mention to anything else outside them 3.
Yeah, so the front 3 to be looking at here with Boothill, as you say, he is being stepped up in grade quite quickly, but off that mark, there should be more to come from him. Andrew, yourself for this race, please.
Yeah, there were 3 that interested me here. Soaring Glory being one of them. He's never lost when he's fresh. Give him 5 weeks longer off the track. He's 4 from 4. That Supreme Novices hurdle defeat came 23 days after his Betfair hurdle win. Probably came a little bit too soon.
And Cheekpieces first time, wasn't it? I don't know why if they did that.
Yeah.
Right. That's another good point. And he's down in grade effectively. Wild Max is another one I'm a fan of. He goes well fresh. He likes right-handed tracks, and he's had wind surgery since his last run. He can race a little bit keenly, like a few in this race, and big field, strong pace scenario could bring about improvement from him as well. The other one was half interesting, was Global Citizen. He ran in this race in 2018, finished 2nd after making the running. He's only £3 lower, but he's only the 2nd horse that Ben Paulin's had in this race, and the other one placed as well. And he's got the back class to go well. If he doesn't get taken on for the lead, and that front running style is not a disadvantage, if it's a case of they're not winning round the outside and you can win up the inner, then maybe Global Citizen at 16 to 1 could give you a run for your money each way, as long as he doesn't get taken on by Lee and Cavallo. But I'll go Soaring Glory for the the purpose of this video, and he's got to at least go close, I would have thought.
Yeah, both of the lads there siding with, well, looking at the head of the market there with the front three, but a good mention for Boothill for Daryl and Soaring Glory then for Andrew. Now, I have looked away from those at the head of the market for a bet in this race. I don't know whether to say it or not, so I don't want to put them on.
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, God. Whenever I do this, it goes wrong. Yeah, but I'm going to put the mockers on Megan. She certainly deserves a mention in this race. For all this is a notable step up in grade for her, and this will be the toughest task that she has faced yet, but she is a very well handicapped horse. We saw that last time out at Chepstow, where she was cantering into the race in that 4-year-old handicap hurdle before she just took a novice full there and 3 outs, where her back end just got too high for her front end and she just knuckled over at that tricky hurdle at the top of the home straight. So she is still able to run here off the same mark of 120. Hopefully she is now over that issue. She's been schooled plenty by Stuart Edmonds, by his daughter Harriet at home. And she's over the issue that saw her pull up on her penultimate start as well. So credit to the team for being able to get her back from then. So she is very well treated, provided she does that. She can put that latest fall behind her, because she's not going to get much of a chance to ease herself into this race. So that's going to be the concern against this opposition. But she's certainly a decent price, so to chance that she will. So there you go. There's the mockers. I won't be forgiven. Anchoron only has 10 stone 1 on her as well, so he won't be fed for the rest of the week. So hopefully it'll be worth his while. Right, the 240 at Ascot. It's more listed action in our next race than in the form of the 0 to 150 handicap chase over 2 miles and half a furlong, where editor De Gite currently heads the market to bring up a belated hat trick. So Andrew, how do you see this race going?
This is a belter, isn't it? You got last year's winner, Amula Gold. Venetia Williams has got a couple of runners, and she's got a good record in this race, winning it twice in the last 10 years, going very close last year with Ibleo, who was favourite and just chinned by Amula Gold. But there was Sully Doc or Sully Doc Double A, however you say that, won the novice handicap chase on this card last year, trained by Anthony Honeyball, and it's 2 from 2 right-handed since wind surgery, so I think there's more to come from this one. Last seen winning at the Punchestown Festival. Getaway Trump, I wanted to be against the Nichols horse. He's had wind surgery, but he is 0 from 4 first time up. He was 130 on when he was chinned on his comeback last season. And 1 for Rosie, the Kim Bailey horse, was one I was particularly interested in. She goes particularly well right-handed. She has run, I think, won and run well left-handed on occasions, but she does jump out to her right and can be a bit wayward. So I thought 1 for Rosie, so 3 wins, second and a third from 5 runs this way round. Over Sully Doc with the way to go. So yeah, one for Rosie, but it's tight at the top of the market.
Yeah, 1 for Rosie there to bring up the belated hat trick for Kim Bailey, and Sully Doc as well to double up on the win from last time out. So 2 good shouts there and 2 horses at decent enough prices considering how open this race is, but likeably open, Daryl.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and I'm very, very similar thoughts to what Andrew said. I echo what he said there. I think Sully Doc is the one I'm going to side with. Made an excellent start to his chase career, like Andrew said, 2 for 2 going right-handed, and since the tongue tie's gone on, just continue to improve and improve and improve. I was really impressed with the performance at Punchestown. Obviously, £10 higher here, but if you go through the form of the likes of Editor Geet and Amula Gold, etc., they're all higher in the weights. I think this is between the top 4 or 5 in the market. I think the market's got it right. No bet race for me, but Sully Doc AA I expect to go well for Anthony Honeyball.
Very likeable then. So 2 mentions for Sully Doc there in the 245 at Ascot. Now we move to the 320. This is another fascinating contest with the Grade 3 London Gold Cup handicap chase over just shy of 3 miles, where Vinndication is a current favourite as he returns to fences. But I'm just not convinced about him as a chaser still, because he unseated on his final chase start in the Ladbroke Trophy, where admittedly he was still going well. But Daryl, do you think he can get back to winning ways over fences, or are you looking elsewhere?
I am looking elsewhere. He's a lovely horse, but he has to go right-handed. That he does jump out to the right. The issue I have with him is his jumping on a hole. He can clip the top of a fence quite often, and if you go back and watch, for instance, even in that Charlie Hall chase just to head on, he loses so much ground on the landing side of his fence. So a horse that jumps a fence cleanly will get 2 strides ahead of him, because he's clipping the top of that fence. It's almost jolting him back a bit, and then he's got to pick up again, and he's using so much energy to pick up every single time, and he's losing those lengths the landing side of every fence that I just, off a mark of 158, I've just now got to be against him. I thought Price Sojourn for, again, another Anthony Honeyball horse, first time after a wind operation. I thought this horse was interesting on the Haydock run where bumped into Sam's Adventure in the Tommy Whittle. Sam's Adventure subsequently went out to win the Ida next time out. It's £14 higher. This horse is just £2 higher. No sort of race next time in the Grand National trial, but I'd forgive that one run.
Forgive anything with that, I say.
Given that he was so impressive as well the time before at Carlisle, he won't mind any rain if the ground softens up. He's going to be ridden prominently, and he just jumps so well that it travels him into a race so strongly. I think he stays all day, so I'd be with him at around 12s, I think.
Yes. So Sojourn there to hope that the wind operation has had a positive effect. If the rain does come for him, which it at this stage looks likely to anyway, to bounce back then on this reappearance starting is a good price to go with. If you get around 14 to 1 for that, then Sojourn is a nice price. Andrew, yourself, please.
Yeah, Vinndication, Nap. He's going right-handed. Game over. That's all you need to know. If you had a horse who'd had 8 runs right-handed, won 7 of them, finished 3rd to Defi de Soy and lost in translation in a Grade 1 novices chase, and the other when running over an inadequate 2.5-mile trip. How would you campaign the horse the following season? I know we'll run left-handed every single bloody time. I mean, what is Kim Bailey on, for goodness sake? I mean, you look at so the season before last, he placed in the 3-mile handicap, the Ultima at the Cheltenham Festival, not being far in 4th behind the conditional. And he look at that, every single fence he shifted out to his right, lost ground, and you think, for goodness sake, run him the other way round, man. And what happens? We'll start off last season in the Charlie Hall Chase. He's got off favourite for that. He still finished second despite hating the track. And what's happened after that? We'll keep running him left-handed. Left-handed. I mean, I thought he would run well in the King George if they actually ran him in that, but Christ knows what they've been doing with him. So, going back right-handed, 7 wins from 8 and a 3rd in a Grade 1 over the wrong trip from 8 runs, that way around. It's huge. I mean, he's £1 lower than when placed in the Ultima. I know he's a lot higher in the weights than he was when bolting up in this race a couple of years ago, but I just think he's got a great chance here.
Yeah, and say going right-handed. And I did mention beforehand, I wasn't convinced of him over fences, but as I say, that is significantly left-handed where he does jump out to his right so markedly. So he's going the right way around. Now, I have to admit, I was really finding it tricky this weekend to find a nap as such because of how competitive these races are. So I am actually napping in this race as well with a horse. I thought I may as well take a big swing up to nap for this weekend because of how difficult it is and how many questions have to be answered for plenty of leading fancies in most races. So I thought I'd have a swing at a big price. And that is going to come in this race with Mr. Malarky, because I think he should have a huge chance in this race. We know how well he can go over this course and distance. He won a Grade 2 novices chase over this course and distance in 2019 before winning again in December last year in a listed handicap chase, again over this course and distance, where he had the conditional and course specialist Regal Encore held. He was then too close to a mad pace at Kempton in a Grade 3 handicap chase there in February and did well to finish 3rd before pulling up in the Grand National, which is forgivable, and posting a very just reappearance run last time out off of top weight in the Native River handicap chase. So this looks to have been the plan for him. And Harry Kimber takes a £7 claim off his back as well, which does see him nicely weighted. So Mr. Malarky at a different price. Why not? Nap for this weekend.
He's a good claimer, that Harry Kimber. He's a right good rider, yeah.
He is. And Tizard thinks an awful lot of him as well. So hopefully that's going to come to the fore then. And Mr. Malarky, I mean, he's only 8, but still it might just help him around in this contest. So Andrew, back to you, please, for anything else from Ascot.
No, nothing for me, Kate.
No, Daryl?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Perfect. We will move on to our last scheduled race then, which is going to come from Down Royal. And last but certainly not least, because this is going to be the Grade 1 Quarto Star Champion Chase to give it its official title over 3 miles on our only Down Royal scheduled race anyway, and an absolute belter because we get to see Manella Indo making his reappearance, the Gold Cup hero, but not with Jack Kennedy on board this time, who has to ride Delta Work, who is obviously a very talented horse at his best, but we didn't see that from him in his 3 runs last season. There's also the National Hunt Challenge Cup winner, Galvin, having his second start of the season, the King George winner, Frodon, has also headed across the Irish Sea for this race, and the field is rounded off by the outside Ravenhill. So some serious horsepower in this race. Daryl, who wins it?
Galvin.
Oh, God.
Yeah, I really like Milena. I've really grown to like him. I thought that Gold Cup performance last year was absolutely sensational. But I think he's a horse that improves throughout the season. Yeah. And I think if you've got an opportunity to get him beat, it's going to be first time up. Now, I know he did win fresh, but he only beat, last season, he only beat Milan Native, 145 rate. He's going to have to be at least £10 better here. I think Galvin's got a fitness edge on his side. I think he's going to improve from that run last time. He's done absolutely nothing wrong, Galvin, for me. He just keeps winning, and he's such a strong stayer. I think I love him. I do. I really love him. This is a good race. Again, Delta work is one fresh. You don't really want to be back in fresh first time up for me. Frodon's got every chance, but I thought Galvin is improving at a rate of knots. Recording an RPR of 167 last time. We don't know what his ceiling is. I think he's just going to continue to improve. This has got to be the chance. This has got to be his opportunity to beat him. I hope he beats him, and then they go do a Gold Cup campaign for Galvin this year, because there's a lot of talk about the Grand National, but I'd much rather see him at Cheltenham in the Gold Cup. Yeah,
certainly. So, as you say, he was touted then as a Grand National horse, which is understandable from what trip he won over at Cheltenham. But they say if he can win this, get put away for the winter again, and then come out and win a Gold Cup, then masterful work. But Andrew, back to you, please, for this Grade 1.
Yeah, similar to Daryl, really, in that I thought Manella Indo might be vulnerable. I mean, he's only won once from his 4 seasonal debuts, and that was when, 13 to 8 on in the full runner race at Wexford last year, where he beat Trees. And there's also a possible suspicion that he might be better left-handed. And, he's 2 from 6 right-handed, 4 from 7 the other way round. So, and those right-handed wins have tended to come in sort of very low-grade races when it's a short price. So perhaps clutching at straws to take him on from that angle, but it's something worth bearing in mind. I mean, Paul Nicholls has got a good pedigree in this race, not perhaps so much in recent years. I think Quarto Stone was his last winner. But, I mean, although Frodon does lose at ground by jumping out to his left, he keeps winning on right-handed tracks. I keep thinking, I'll take him on. He wants to go the other way around. And what happens? He keeps winning. Small field, get into a good rhythm. You would imagine that, he's going to give you a good run for your money at 9-2. Galvin, I couldn't fall to. I think I'll be, I'll go for Frodon just to be different to Daryl, but I'll be quite happy to back either Frodon or Galvin, or maybe, rather than spend £2 on a lottery ticket, have a pound reverse forecast on that pair and hope that, Manella Indo and Delta work underperform.
He hates the lottery, doesn't he?
Yes. Every week an advertisement not to have your money on the lottery then and to put it in a race instead.
Well, it does annoy me when people who regularly do the lottery say that gambling is a mugs game, and you're saying, well, if I back a horse at 2-1, I think should be evens. Is that surely that's better than you taking odds of 50-1 about a 9-1 shot and getting 3 numbers up?
Exactly, and supposedly with skill involved as well, so it makes it a very different entity to lotteries and casinos and such like anyway, doesn't it? So yes, both of the lads are taking on a Gold Cup winner. What a shout that is going to be for our final scheduled race there at Down Royal in that Grade 1 contest with Frodon and Galvin for two selections there in this contest. So Andrew, back to you please for anything else at all from Down Royal.
No, not at all.
No, and Daryl, yourself please.
No, thank you.
And anything from anywhere else, Daryl? I don't know what else we've got left to cover.
Yeah, there's a couple at Newmarket I've got. 223 Noble Dynasty. I mean, he's the unexposed horse in the field. They'll have to be blind as bats to price him up anything bigger than 13-8. But if they do, then he's definitely worth siding with. First time cheap piece for Noble Dynasty. And then in the 408, this listed Ben Marshall Stakes. I really think this Dante's Pass for Joseph O'Brien could be a little bit of a monster. This is a big step up in grade for him. But his last 2 starts were so impressive. A lot of these horses in here now are, over the hill, if you like. A bit like Andrew, over the hill. No joking.
I was waiting for that.
Over the hill, he's the young pretender. I think he's a proper horse, this Dante's Pass. So I'd be really excited to see what he does on. He's going to be a fair price as well, you would assume, given this big step up in grade. So Yeah, Dante's pass.
Oh, very good. So Daryl's still clinging on to the last dregs there of the flat season with Dante's pass, but this is a perfect time of season to be really finding a horse then for the following year as well, and potential pointers, because everyone's stopped looking now. So Dante's pass in the 408 at Newmarket, and in the 223 you also like Noble Dynasty. So Andrew, anything else from yourself?
Just the one also at Newmarket in the 333, the listed James Seymour Stakes, and that's our old friend Bay Bridge for Sir Michael Stout, who was arguably unlucky not to be unbeaten in his 5 career starts. He was too green to do himself justice when third at Yarmouth on his debut, did best of those to come from off the base. Then gone to Kempton, he's drawn out wide, got no cover, finished 4th, and then it's since stepped up and tripped beyond a mile. It's bang, 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 win, 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 and it just keeps going forward. Surefire group winner for Sir Michael Stout next year, I think, and can sign off a good season by winning this listed contest.
Yeah, so Bay Bridge in the 333 and the listed James Seymour Stakes there at Newmarket in a small runner contest. So Andrew, back to you.
I think I said James Seymour instead of James.
To be fair, I always say it. So I always say it, James Seymour, and I completely flip the two the whole while.
That's what happens when you get old, you see, Daryl, you forget things.
You get your historical figures wrong. Andrew, back to you for your nap, though. I think we know where we're going, but just to reiterate.
Yeah, I was tempted by Bay Bridge, but I'll go Vinndication and hope I'm vindicated about his need for a right-handed track.
Oh, yes, exactly. So Vinndication then, that was a 320, isn't it, at Ascot, whereas also my nap is going to, so a nap off with Mr. Malarky.
Did you just tell me to nap off?
I did. Take the hint. Darry, happy it's now finally flipped around after an early abuse for you. We're now all targeting Andrew Mountler.
Yeah, that's his hard of hearing. He thought you said go for a nap, didn't he?
That's a good idea, actually.
The nap is the nap of the day in a 340 at Wetherby, Haafapiece. Well handicapped, loves the track. Got to win, surely.
Wonderful. And for my kitten's father, in a strange roundabout way as well, then Haafapiece for Jack Andrews to get into the winners' enclosure. I'm sure the kitten will be delighted with that as well. So that is everything from us in a very strange turn of events there towards the end of this show. But thank you so much for sticking with us again. It was completely jam-packed, 10 scheduled races, plenty of other bets as well, differing opinions, agreeing in some parts as well. But it's hugely, hugely exciting. So we hope you enjoy it. Thanks to our sponsors, SBK. Thank you to both of the lads. And we'll see you again next week.